One of the biggest Ponzi schemes in human history, Hexcoin, has finally collapsed. It's finally dead. And Richard Hart, founder of it, he's been sued by the SEC. Everyone's talking about him at the moment. And so I figured, let's do a video on this entire situation, because what I want to talk about today is how did such an obvious Ponzi scheme get to a $50 billion market cap? What made this a project so appealing to all the masses of people who bought it? And what can we take away from Hexcoin in terms of how do we pick the next one? Like, what are the lessons from Hex that we can use to find the next big 100,000, 10,000x investment in the crypto space? And so to understand why Hex got so big, I think you all need to understand what it is about a cryptocurrency that is the most important factor for its growth. And no, the most important factor is not like how good the technology is. It's not about who the investors are. It's not about how small or big the project is. It's not about what industry it is. The most important thing about a cryptocurrency to perform well is how good is the story. How good is the story is the most important thing. And now when I say story, what I'm trying to say is that the story, in other words, the narrative, is about what do you think about when you think of this coin? What is the story that you play in your mind when you are deciding to buy or hold this asset? And the projects that have the best story, the best narrative, are the projects that are going to perform the best over the long term. Because at the end of the day, cryptocurrencies are communities. And the cryptocurrency communities are the exact same as the religious communities. They're the exact same as a photography community. Any community on the planet where there is followers and there is leaders is the exact same setup as the crypto communities of these projects. And so when we think about communities as a concept, what is the biggest community on the planet right now? Well, the biggest community on the planet is religion. Religion is a belief, and it is a group of people in the size of multiple billions who all have a similar belief in a certain outcome. In crypto, all these people come together to make money. In religion, all these people come together to worship God or whatever it is. And so the success of a crypto project comes down to how well this project can emulate the depth of the story behind some of the world's biggest religions. And when you think about it, when we say like invest in a cult coin, you guys have probably heard this. A lot of people say like, and you want to invest in the best projects that are like cults. Why do we compare coins to cults? Well, it's the same reason that I'm comparing coins to religions. It's because coins, like religions and cults, are all about communities, and it's all about inserting specific beliefs into the followers of your project so that they do two things: buy and never sell. If you can convince everyone in your community to do those two things, your project will have success. And the success of your project is completely defined by how well and how many people you convince of these two things. And when you look at Richard Hart, the founder of Hex, if you look at what he did as a founder, he excelled at two things. One, being a charismatic leader, and two, telling compelling stories. Richard Hart is not a business owner, he's not a founder, he's not a tech genius, he's just a leader of people who is good at telling stories. And you know this for a fact because if you go on YouTube and you watch those live streams of Richard Hart where he's talking for hours upon hours, what he is basically doing is he is sitting in front of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, and he is spell casting on these people. He is inserting spells into the brains of the people who are investing into his project to believe two things. They need to buy Hex and they need to hold it to get rich. That is the sole belief that Richard Hart was working on inserting in all of the people who followed him. And he did this through the telling of stories. Think about all the different mental models and replies to certain arguments that he would come up with on why Hex was the best coin. People would say, Hex is a Ponzi scheme. Hex is highly inflationary. Hex is this, Hex is that. He would always have a certain angle of attack. He would always have a spell that he could cast to basically deflect any negative argument against him.
It's like, yeah, it's all there. The 95% dip warnings are there. The like self-custody warnings are there. The don't pick up pennies in front of freight trains is there. It's like, we won. People just need to realize it. The summary was, by the way, if everyone had bought Hex instead of the trash they bought, there'd probably be a lot of people less wrecked. Yes, you're still going to have huge volatility, sure, but you don't lose all your coins. If and when a new bull cycle comes, you get to ride it up. When you get scammed with something that takes all your coins away, like for instance, in Celsius, the judge ruled that the coins you gave them aren't your coins. They're their coins. And so in an event of a bankruptcy, you go last. They're secured creditors that have UCC1 forms. They get a right of getting paid out first. You get paid last. You get paid whatever's left. Oopsie.
And that is why it succeeded and it got to a $50 billion market cap. It's because he was an amazing storyteller and he was a charismatic leader who could convince people en masse of the only belief that every cryptocurrency project needs, which is that you need to buy and you need to hold to get rich. And the projects in crypto that are the least successful are the ones that fail to do this. And this is my takeaway from the entire Hex saga. When you're trying to pick which projects are going to be the best performing assets, you need to basically identify a few things. One, is there a charismatic leader or a charismatic group of leaders behind this project? Are the stories that they are telling, or is the narrative that is building up something that can build a cult? And how convinced are the holders that buying and holding is going to make them rich? Because when you think about it, a market is just buyers and sellers. It's just people who come together to buy and sell. When a price goes up, it's because there's more buyers and sellers. It's pretty simple, right? That's how you make money. You buy something, and then more people want it than currently want it, and less people are selling it than currently selling it, and the price goes up, right? So the best performing crypto assets are projects where you have someone who bought it at $1. It went to $10, and they were convinced, oh, but if I buy and hold, I get rich. I can't sell it at 10x because it's going to 100x. And because they believe this, they're not going to sell it at 10x. They're going to hold for that next jump in price performance, right? If you have a project where people don't really believe in it, they sort of do, the guy who leads the project isn't that charismatic, he doesn't tell that compelling of a story about why you should hold it. When they get a 10x on their investment, they're going to sell. Oh, I've made money, I'm pretty rational right now. Yeah, logical decisions. Yeah, I'll just exit. That's not how you get a long-term high price performance. If you want your asset to go up 1,000x, if you want your asset to get to a $50 billion market cap, you need people who bought it at a $100 million market cap to believe it's going to be a $1 trillion asset. Because think about it, right? There's actually a moment in one of the Hex videos where Richard Hart says, like, you won't all understand this now, but it's going to be so hard to imagine the value of Hex being higher than everything on the planet. But that is just how the supply tokenomics are designed.
Can you share your vision roadmap of Hex going to $1 million per coin, please? I think it's mind warping. For me to say that Hex will be $1 million a coin is very hard to say, because when you do the math, like the old world logic of like, oh, market cap matters. And then you're like, okay, 1 million times 640 million exceeds like the value of all of the stuff on the planet Earth in dollars. So it's very mind warping and very weird to say that you could see each Hex be worth $1 million.
He says some bullshit like this, right? That is an example of casting a spell on his audience to believe that buying and holding is the thing that's going to make them rich. And so again, this is why we say you want to buy coins with cult communities. Now you're probably wondering, like, Daniel, what are the coins with cult communities? Well, a classic example of a cult community is CAS, K-A-S. If you guys look into this, it's actually called Casper. You'll see that this is a cult community. It's a fairly launched coin that didn't have any pre-sale, didn't have any VCs. It was just an easily launched, simple coin with no mining or anything like that. It was just a very fair launch. So if you guys look into it and you look into the community, you'll see that these people treat this shit like a cult. And you'll see as well at the recording of this video, Casper just hit an all-time high. So that's a classic example of a coin that was launched early, had a crazy cult community, and it saw an amazing price performance. Now, let's think about these VC coins as a sort of opposite example. ICP, for example. If you look at the chart, it literally just went down only. Why is this? Why was this coin unable to bring positive price performance for its investors? Well, the main thing is that these coins that have a lot of VCs investing, VCs are the hardest people to turn into cult-like members, right? When the only people who hold your project is retail normal investors, this is what you want to see, because it's retail that'll 100x their money and not sell because they believe they're going to 1000x their money. But when you have a VC, these people have mandates, they have targets they have to hit, they have investors breathing down their neck. These people are not going to fall for the cult of the founder of the projects they're investing in. They put their money in early, they make a 10x, they pull it out and they put it into next investment. They make their investors happy, they didn't lose money, they're like, thank God, and then they go to the next investment. Okay, so when your project is dominated by VCs like ICP or any of these VC coins, these coins are very hard to have the big returns because the holder base is made up of people who will sell after only making a small gain. Like I was saying before with the concept of supply and demand. When you have too much supply of people trying to sell, it's very hard to push the price up. Hex, no one wanted to sell. They all locked up their coins. It went up to a $50 billion market cap asset. And so to summarize this video on some key lessons that you should take away from what I've just been ranting on, what you need to find in the best cryptocurrencies to invest in is a few things. You want to find compelling stories that can drive asset prices higher. So when you look at the narrative behind a project, like the reason that people buy this and the reason they think it's going to go up a lot, The story needs to be compelling. It needs to be something that people can truly believe in and form an attachment to. And really, truly, like, they have to be able to 10x their money and have this story still convince them they're going to get 100x. That's what you need. Now, what you also need is you need to buy the coins of the communities which best represent cults. So when you look at a crypto's community, if it doesn't feel like you just joined a cult, you're probably in the wrong place. So what are some examples? Milady. Milady is a classic example of a cult coin. Solana has a little bit of a cult going for it as well. Ethereum has a bit of a cult. Bitcoin is literally a straight up cult. Like, look at the early Bitcoin investors. It's a straight up fucking circle jerk cult, okay? And last but not least, the biggest lesson of investing in these cults or these Ponzi schemes or these cryptocurrencies, whatever you want to call it, is that you need an exit plan. So it doesn't matter what coin you buy, it doesn't matter if it goes from literally like $1 million market cap to $50 billion like Hex. It doesn't matter what happens, you need an exit plan. So if you're a Hex investor, you could have made all this money, but it's now down 99%, you might have lost all your money. You owned the best performing coin, now you've lost money. So it doesn't matter when you buy, doesn't matter any of this if you can't sell. So you need to have an exit plan, even if it's a cult coin. You can't be like all the other people in the cult who will hold for 1000x and then hold it all the way back down. You need to be the one guy in the group who has an exit plan. You need to be in the cult acting like you're gonna dedicate your life to this Richard Hart dude, and then you need to like exit the cult. Like, oops, tricked you guys, fuck you all, I'm leaving, and then find the next one. That's what you need to be doing. And so if you found this video interesting, I've just made a new crypto Telegram community where I'm basically going to be turning anyone watching this into a crypto money-making god. So we're going to be talking about everything that I've talked about in this video and way more. Regular daily updates from me talking about the market and just basically downloading my brain into yours. It's a completely free group. If you want to join it, you'll find it in the description below. I'll see you inside, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.